when you came up with, when you were thinking about the cholesterol, like what was your motivation for really going, like wanted to discuss this when
Oh
you
yeah, I
brought
have
it
so
up?
many
You're passionate
clients.
about it,
I've
man.
had so many past clients I've had that are on statins, and I
Mhm.
try to tell them like, hey, listen, like statins does nothing for cholesterol. It does more harm than good. I'll give you guys a list later of stuff what it actually does to your body, and doctors know this. I think a lot of them just forgot, and I'll tell you a little backstory later on. Like when I went with one of my clients to the doctor, and then he tried to put her on a statin. I was really polite. And I'll tell you that story later. I don't want to kind
Yeah,
of get into it because it's going to ruin kind of the stuff we're going to be talking about.
yeah,
But
yeah.
they just forgot because they're bombarded by, people from pharmaceutical companies coming in there and be like, oh, this is the newest statin. This works better. This works better. And they're so like just overwhelmed, and they're like, yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do this, And unfortunately, like from what I hear, they make a lot of their money off these commissions. So it's very hard. It's very hard for people to want to learn the truth when their paycheck is involved.
All right, here we are. What's up, Brian? Welcome to It's More Than Black or White. B, how you doing, B?
Living the dream, man. It's a late night here, man. 8 o'clock, man. It's winding down, but I feel good, man. I got my energy is good. I'm pumped. My cortisol is a little higher than I like it to be around this time of night. But I'm pumped, man. I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to roll. I just get excited about this, man. You can
Yeah.
wake me up at like 3 a.m. and I'd be like, yeah, do a podcast about game on, man. Let's do this.
I may try you on that, man. I'm just giving you a heads up. Because
Yeah,
I've
if
been
you
waking
call
up
me, I
these
might not answer. All right. So
He'd be like,
keep
ring,
trying.
ring, ring, ring. Hey, B, come on, pick up,
Yeah.
son. Pick up.
Yeah.
Bless up, man. Hey, dude, I gotta tell you, so today we're talking cholesterol, right? And the myths around cholesterol and transparency. I was like, why? But I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, man, I'm like, listen, I know and I trust you, man. So I'm like, look, there's something to this, man. And then when you started talking more about it, I was like, dude, it started really bringing up stuff that I've heard a lot about cholesterol, even for myself and stuff that I've heard from clients. So as I was looking into this, I'm really excited that we're talking about this, man, because I think there's a lot of questions out there that people have yet to know the answers to.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of misconception because
Yeah.
we're just flooded. Like I was reading something the other day. It was actually I got this off Joe Rogan, and he was interviewing Aaron Rodgers. And did you know that we're
Even
only
post injury. Okay,
pre-injury, yeah,
yes.
pre-injury, yeah. Did you
Mhm.
know we're one of only two countries that are allowed to advertise pharmaceutical drugs on TV? Did you know that? The other one's New Zealand. I didn't know this. So, like, no other country in the world is allowed to advertise pharmaceutical drugs out there on television. And it's like they must think we're fucking lunatics, like, like
Because
out of her mind. He was kind of making a joke. He's like, you get this girl like running through a wheat field, like with good music in the background, and 90% of like the video is like all the like the side effects of like what could happen to you, and like, oh, talk to your doctor, and if you experience like your liver falling out of your ass, or
bloody eyeballs. And they all say it all fast, like,
yeah,
call your doctor
exactly.
for next
Yeah.
steps.
And
Dude,
75% of all our ads on TV are pharmaceutical drugs. So
brother,
people had this misconception, like, that we
wow.
need this stuff, and that it's important for us to have these pharmaceutical drugs, So
So it's wild, man, because at the time that we're recording this, we just put out the episode about amino acids.
mm,
And it's wild because as you're saying this, I'm starting to think like, damn, I can understand the reason why people wouldn't have any idea about what's the truth
no,
around cholesterol, because we get bombarded with these messages. I mean, these commercials are in everything. Like now Netflix has even a special pricing where they can put commercials in between your shows,
oh
right?
Jesus, here we go.
YouTube, all these different things, man. Like And they're all promoting pharmaceutical products, man. Whether it's
Yeah,
for like erectile dysfunction, hair loss, cholesterol. It's
because
like,
there's so
what
much
the heck is
money,
happening?
so much money to be made in it. So much money to be made in it. They do not want anything. They don't want to cure you. So much money to be made in it, and they're doing it all for the wrong reasons, you know.
Dude,
But
it's bananas, B. So
mm,
I'm curious. When you came up with when you were thinking about the cholesterol, like what was your motivation for really going like wanted to discuss this
oh yeah,
when you
I
brought
have
it
so
up?
many
You're passionate
clients.
about it,
I've
man.
had so many past clients I've had that are on statins, and I
Mhm,
try to tell them like, hey, listen, like statins does nothing for cholesterol.
mhm.
It does more harm than good. I'll give you guys a list later of stuff what it actually does to your body. And doctors know this. I think a lot of them just forgot. And I'll tell you a little backstory later on. Like when I went with one of my clients to the doctor, and then he tried to put her on a statin. I was really polite, and I'll tell you that story later. I don't want to kind of
Yeah,
get into it because it's going to ruin kind of the stuff we're going to be talking about.
yeah,
But they
yeah,
just forgot because they're bombarded by people from pharmaceutical companies coming in there and be like, oh, this is the newest statin. This works better. And they're so like just overwhelmed, and they're like, yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do this, And unfortunately, like from what I hear, they make a lot of their money off these commissions. So it's very hard. It's very hard for people to want to learn the truth when their paycheck is involved. You know what I mean?
damn, dude. And when I'm hearing you say that, I'm hearing the paycheck, and also I'm hearing the distractions, man.
Sure.
Like if they're if you're going and you're talking about this and they're like, oh man, I forgot about this. It's like their energy is diverted to other things.
Yeah.
Money and like, the promotion, like, hey, promote this when there's other things out there that can support it. B,
Sure.
talk to me about, because like I really appreciate being on these calls with you and these recordings, because I'm always learning something from you.
hmm
So tell me, as far as like when people have a cholesterol, like what is the intention of prescribing a statin? And what is that?
People think cholesterol contributes to heart disease, and
Okay.
they think it's a direct link to it. It has nothing to do with heart disease whatsoever. If you're trying to control your cholesterol, stay away from. They're actually the main things out there that cause cardiovascular disease is smoking. Glyphosate is huge. I mean, I don't know how many times every episode I feel like we're going back to glyphosate, and I
Yeah.
hope somebody eventually, people out there that are new to this, they kind of take a look at our glyphosate video, or just not even ours, but just look at glyphosate in general. It's the main ingredient in Roundup.
Hmm.
Herbicides, pesticides, fungicides, rodenticides. These are all that lead to cardiovascular issues. High cholesterol is just a warning signs that somewhere in your lifestyle you're creating too much vascular stress and inflammation, and you're demanding your liver to basically produce more LDL, or low density lipoprotein cholesterols. And we have this like theme in our society, like we're trying to always be combative. We have good cholesterol, which is your HDL, versus your bad cholesterol, which is your LDL. But
Yeah.
later on, I'll show you guys that LDLs are very beneficial for you. Your body needs it. If your LDLs are high, that just means there's some kind of other inflammation going in your body that's producing LDL. If we didn't have LDL, we'd be fucked. That's the simplest way to do it. But everyone's like trying to push LDLs down. No,
Yeah.
no, get rid of them. Let's put it on statins. Yeah, it'll decrease your LDL, but the fire's still there. I mean, we'll get into it. We'll get into it more. Like again, I don't want to jump ahead, but
Wait, so B, I just come back to that for a second. So when you're
yeah,
saying like when the LDL is high, it's meaning that there's inflammation somewhere else in the body. So
yeah,
when you're saying that, it's basically like that's an indicator something else is happening.
yeah. When you have too much inflammation in your body, think of your body being on fire. Think of inflammation as fire. It's the
Yeah.
easiest way to put it. Your liver produces cholesterol to cool down the fire. And when you go
Hmm.
to the doctor and they give you a statin, yeah, your cholesterol will get lower, but the
Yeah.
fire's still there. It's like a just picture your house on fire, and the firemen show up, and instead of bringing the full fire truck with water, they only bring a half a truck, of
Like
water.
a
Yeah,
dropper.
yeah, yeah. They're out there with the spray bottle trying to put out a four alarm fire. instead of having a garden hose out there. The fire's still there and the inflammation is still there. So that doesn't go anywhere. You want to loosen up your cholesterol, lower your cholesterol. It's some kind of inflammation that you're putting in your body, some kind of lifestyle choice. And a lot of it, again, smoking, even if you don't smoke, this glyphosate is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's in our food. It's in our air. It's in our water. Like, that's a major one. That is a huge one,
Wow. So the LDL,
Mm-hmm.
because now it's like, now I'm trying to remember when the marker, when they say, oh, you have high cholesterol, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is it the LDL is high or the RDL is high?
So it's HDL and
Oh,
LDL.
HDL. I'm
And you got
thinking
your
like,
VLDLs too, which is your very low density lipoproteins.
I said
But
RDL. Was I thinking like a Romanian deadlift?
yeah,
I don't.
yeah. When your Romanian deadlift is super high, you need to. But they look at the ratios. That's the ratio. They're looking at ratios. So you can have, like, again, I don't really look too much about the numbers on it.
Yeah.
But if the LDL, my client brings in a thing and their HDLs are really low or their LDLs are really high and the ratios too close together, I'll be like, all right, you got some kind of inflammation going in your body. And we talked about this a little bit in a previous episode. When you go to a doctor, CRP test, this C-reactive protein test, that's a very good indicator of how much inflammation you have going on there. So if you would actually measure your LDL and you would put it up, or if you have high LDL, low HDL, chances are your C-reactive protein, your CRP, which is pretty standard test, is going to be high as well too.
Gotcha.
You know.
So when people are getting their numbers,
Mm-hmm.
the more appropriate thing to look for is a good ratio between the LDL and HDL.
Yeah. Yeah.
That means that the body's functioning on a level rather
Mm-hmm.
than like if one is higher than the other,
Yeah.
one is high, one is low. That imbalance means that there's some sort of inflammation going on in the body.
Yeah. That's basically, yeah. You want about a 3.5 to 1. That's standard. So, like, if you have just whatever, like 35 to say your HDLs are 35, which is super low. Your LDLs you want a 10, so 3.5 to 1.
Okay.
Again, those numbers don't, you'd have a lot of issues if your HDLs are that low. But
Just for example, just for
yeah,
numbers
just 3 to
purposes.
5. 3 to
Wow.
5 is considered very good. Yeah,
Okay.
anything below a 5 to 1, you want to start looking like, okay, something's going on here.
So okay, so in this case, when like there's coming up where the LDL is high, someone goes and they say, okay, we're gonna put you on a statin. The
Mm-hmm.
statin is designed to what? To support and right or align the vascular system
It's
to
it's
bring
it's supposed
balance.
to block cholesterol from being made, because we have this, like, if you look at like cholesterol, if you Google cholesterol,
Yeah.
you know, just Google cholesterol and go to images, you see like a blood vessel being clogged, you know. So it's like that's not the case at all. But Google, the pharmaceutical companies know there's trillions of dollars in scaring people that think cholesterol is causing heart disease or cardiovascular disease. Are you Googling an image of cholesterol
You
right
know
now?
I am.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, B. All right, so
Am I
check
right?
this
I
out,
haven't
dude.
checked. I
You're
haven't checked it
so
in a year, but
right,
like,
bro.
yeah,
Oh my god. Oh my
yeah,
gosh. Okay, look,
yeah.
peoples, check this out. Simply did like if you look in the search column, look what I put in there,
Mm-hmm.
cholesterol, and I looked at images. This right here is the first thing that really popped out to me, right?
Yeah.
And this one as well.
Mm-hmm.
All these images are talking about like this blockage, right?
So the
I'm
question is, like, why is your liver producing cholesterol causing this? It's not a statin deficiency, I promise you that. You know?
and it's
And
from
it
the
goes,
inflammation.
it's
Like
from the
it's like
inflammation,
overcompensating.
in your body. Yeah. And this is, I mean, and people are like, oh, it could be hereditary. We just have a lot of plaque built up. Could be, I mean, listen, it could be. But I look at it as more of like, genetics are like loading a gun in your environment's like pulling the trigger. You know what I mean? That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm fascinated with this because it's like, first of all, can we pause and give thanks for the body that's always giving the signs and clues that something's off,
Yeah.
especially when we pay attention. Right. So
Yeah.
that's freaking, first of all, thank you, bodies. We
And also,
appreciate
to kind of piggyback off that, like every single cell in your body needs cholesterol, needs it. Do you think Mother Nature messed up? Like
you. Nah.
we got to use some common sense a little bit. We have to use common sense. Like in that, unfortunately, it's not too common to find common sense.
Well, you
You
know what
know,
it is? People fail to think. It makes it very easy to be manipulated, right?
yeah,
So rather than asking questions about cholesterol, there could I sense, like, high cholesterol is a theme. It's really a theme that's being pushed out there, rather than an education on what it is and the reason
yeah.
that it may be high.
And it's not
Very
a knock on
fascinating.
the public because you have all this information that's thrown at you with pharmaceutical drugs and Google images that kind of scare you here, and doctors telling you that cholesterol is causing cardiovascular disease. For me though, it was like I was blessed at very young, early in my education process, where I worked with a lot of holistic doctors that were coming in with people. So I learned this stuff really quick, and it was like a huge paradigm shift. I was like, wait, the doctors are not doing right, and they're like, well, you got to understand, a lot of these pharmaceutical companies, they pay for their education. So when they go to school, or they're sponsored by pharmaceutical drugs that
The
go to the school.
CEUs and all
Yeah,
those things, man.
yeah.
Yeah, bro.
So it's that you're a product of your education. And I remember reading back in there, I was in a class with I think Paul Check taught me this, and he's like, this is going back maybe like 2010 or whenever it was, and he's like, the number one drug in the world right now is Lipitor for lowering cholesterol, right? The number two drug in the world at the time was Viagra, and the number three drug was Prozac. And he's like, you want to know why all those three, the lineup one, two, and three? He's like, well, cholesterol, we'll get into a little bit. He's like, when people have cholesterol issues and they go on Lipitor, it lowers your testosterone. So a lot of men now can't get it up. Then all of a sudden you need Viagra. Then if you start needing Viagra every time you want to have sex, you're going to be pretty depressed. So you're going to need some Prozac. So like that's the trick with the pharmaceutical company. They get you on one drug and boom, man, you're hook, line, and sinker, because it's going to cause an effect in another part of your body. It's like playing pool. You rack them up, crack it. You just don't hit one ball. All of them,
Right.
it causes
You
a
hit them
chain
all.
reaction. You know,
Right. Oh my gosh,
so that's
dude.
that's how they get you. There's not too many people that are on just one medication.
It's
You
true,
know.
man. It's true. It's very true. Well, it's like, well, yeah, it's like medication. It's very rare for people to be on medication for one condition,
Hmm.
right? It's like,
Yeah.
you said, okay, I'm gonna work on cholesterol, then I have Viagra, then I have Prozac. It's
Yeah.
like, what the heck is going on, man?
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
fascinating to me because, when someone, so now my mind goes to when someone addresses the imbalance, or the or lines, the proper ratio for HDL, and LDL.
Yep.
Like, what are some, well, what is actually, let's go. I'm like to go from this point. What are some of the things they may see in their how their bodies function and how their body operates, that would give them an indication that their ratio's off? And then what are some of the things that they would see in themselves when the ratio is aligned?
What do you mean, like the patient itself,
Yeah, the patient. Yeah,
like
like in
on,
their
on a
body.
subjective level, how they would feel?
Yeah, yeah. What would that like? Because sometimes,
I mean,
because
it all depends, but I guarantee if you're having like you're dealing with like autoimmune issues, if you're dealing with a lot of like again inflammation, like joint issues, chances are your diet's going to be off. One thing I learned about earlier in my life, I mean, we keep going back to gluten. So gluten, again, a lot of this is going to tie down to your diet. Even though cholesterol, we can get into in a second, doesn't have too much of a dietary cholesterol, has very little effect on your actual blood serum cholesterol. But
yeah,
one thing with gluten, just kind of go off a little side note too. gluten pretty much has the same molecular structure as your synovial fluid. The synovial fluid is that lubrication between the
Mm,
joints.
joints,
So
yeah.
when you eat gluten that's laced with glyphosate, your body almost like it's like, oh, it's synovial fluid, and it goes right to the joints. That's why a lot of people that once they eat gluten, they're like, man, next day they're like achy because all that goes right to the joints. So
Huh.
that's a little tidbit on somebody. If somebody's, like I know if like I go out, I have pizza or a beer. It's been a while, but like I go and
Right.
work out the next day, my
It's a wrap.
elbows are like, yeah, it's a shit show in the gym. you know,
Wow,
it's one
wow,
to kind of
wow.
look at there.
So like, so then like when they address this, right?
Hmm.
Um, well, and let me ask this because now my mind is like, all right, if it's about the inflammation, like would something like doing a detox, like a liver detox because like the liver's taxed, is more veggies, like what are your thoughts about like what people can do to handle this naturally?
Yeah, I would stay away from detoxes for most people because chances are, if your cholesterol is really high or your cholesterol is off the charts, like ratio wise, chances are your lifestyle is not where it should be. And the problem is when you do a detox, you need certain amino acids. You have to have good nutritional lifestyle. Like you need to
Yeah.
be eating good protein, good carbohydrates, good vegetables, drinking a lot of water. Otherwise, your P50, your P448 pathways, your main detoxification P450 pathways, your main detoxification pathways in your liver won't be able to process that food out or process those toxins out. So unless like again, we talked about this before. Remember, like when somebody's like, "Oh, like I want to go on a detox," like for me, you have to qualify to go on a detox. Let
Yeah.
me see your nutrition. If your nutrition isn't there, I'm not taking toxins out of your fat. It's just gonna
Yeah.
hang out in your bloodstream so you feel like shit and overwork your liver. And when you start overworking your
Mm.
liver, you actually cause scarring to the liver, which is called sclerosis. So you got to be
Wow.
very careful.
Hold up, man.
Yeah, like it's not just like everyone's like, oh, let's detox. I want to lose. No, your diet's shit. First,
Yeah.
fix your diet, then we'll get you on a detox. Prove to me that you can do that. Otherwise, you're just jacking up your system. Yeah. I know I went
Ooh.
off a little tangent there, so let me know if I missed anything.
No,
but
man. Listen, I'm shoot. I
yeah,
was like, I was right there with you. I'm like, damn, man.
yeah,
Um, because it's interesting. I think, like, I'm just fascinated with all this about just what's the real around cholesterol because it's such a I think it's such a sleight of hand for like
yeah,
really promoting like this bad cholesterol, you got high cholesterol, take this statin, and it's like it's free of having any sort of education
yeah.
around this, man. So I'm curious. So I want to hear about when you took your client to the doctor. You want to talk about that right now?
Well, let's say that to the end because
Okay.
I'm gonna go over some bullet points or
All right.
remind
Yeah. Let's
remind me
go.
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
but
They do it. They do it.
So real quick, just about like some like myths about cholesterol. So like a lot of people say like I got this off a doctor. I forgot the doctor's name. I didn't cite his full name, but one of the things like he's like heart disease is caused by eating too much cholesterol. False. You know, cholesterol is found in foods is similar to the same cholesterol produced in our bodies. So it is only found in animal products as plants cannot produce it. Right. So we are able to absorb cholesterol from the digestive tract, but only about 10% of that dietary cholesterol we get gets absorbed and impacts our blood cholesterol. So if somebody's like, it's not really a nutrition too much. Yeah, you can if you eat like trans fatty foods, and like a lot of like just shit foods, it could raise your cholesterol, but it's only about a 10%. The biggest thing that's going to raise your cholesterol, like we talked about, is the glyphosate that's on the foods. Okay. So your body's pretty incredible at self-regulating itself. So when your dietary cholesterol intake goes down, your body makes more to fill in the gaps. When you eat greater amount of cholesterol, your body reduces its natural production. So even though dietary cholesterol is slightly increases your LDL, 10%. In some people, it doesn't seem to increase the risk of any kind of heart disease whatsoever. So that's like myth number one. So dietary cholesterol less than 10%. I've read it. I've read studies where it's 0%. So just know that it doesn't make that big of a difference. I think it's not the food. I think it's the shit that we spray on our foods. Hence, again, glyphosate. I sound like a broken record. That's causing the cholesterol to go up.
Okay.
Another one is like aim for foods that are low in cholesterol. So if you eliminate all the majority of dietary cholesterol, you're missing out on many health promoting nutrients, right? So grass-fed beef, for example, is rich in iron, B vitamins. Grass-fed yogurt provides gut healing probiotics and bone supporting calcium. The cholesterol in foods does not have a significant impact on the blood cholesterol, just like I mentioned before. So foods high in dietary cholesterol like eggs, shellfish, beef are actually great sources of lean protein that are likely to have lower impact on cholesterol levels than many processed snack foods. So it's just,
Wow.
it's just demonized. Demonized. And give you real quick one more, right? So
Yeah.
like I get this a lot, so I'm going to bring it out there. Everyone's like, oh, what about egg yolks? So just eat the egg whites. So egg whites offer some protein, about maybe like 2 grams of protein, but
Yeah.
egg yolks contain almost all the egg's nutrients, right? Including most is like iron, biotin, folate, which is a B vitamin, so it's biotin. Vitamins like A, D, E, K, those are all your fat soluble vitamins, and plus it has like 4 grams of protein. So there was actually one like game changing study. This is going back about like 10 years ago, where they compared blood cholesterol impact of eating whole eggs versus eating eggs that were just the egg whites. And they saw a larger increase in HDL and greater decrease in LDL with people eating the egg yolks. So it was actually more beneficial on your cholesterol eating the egg yolks than actually eating the egg whites.
Mm.
So they actually, and kind of piggyback off this, is their LDLs just eating the egg yolks or just eating the egg whites, even though the egg yolk has the cholesterol in it,
Yeah.
just eating the egg whites raise the cholesterol. So that's kind of like
So it's like that's a big myth right there.
yeah, it's huge. Yeah. Yeah. So I bring that
Eat
study.
the
I
yolk, damn it. Eat the yolk.
eat the yolk, man. Eat the yolk. Don't be a dork. Eat the yolk.
That's right. God damn it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's he? So I got. So that's three. That's three myths.
That's 3 myths. That's all the myths I got for you. But we can get
Okay.
into like so if you take out cholesterol in your body, well, I'm gonna explain to you a little bit of like cholesterol does. There's 4 things. All right, and this is pretty important to know. Next time you go to your doctor and they want to put you on a statin, this is going to lead to my story I'm going to end with a little bit later. So one of the things cholesterol does, it increases the flexibility of the cell. Okay. When you take cholesterol out of your body by putting yourself on a statin, it hardens the outside of a cell. So, like Brian, like, why would that matter? I'm taking a line from you. Well, thanks for asking, Brian. I was cracking up thinking about that before. So, what happens is people are like, oh, what's the matter if you have a rigid cell? Imagine if your muscles are dried out and you're working out. What's going to happen? You're going to start tearing things up.
Yep.
Your cells actually tear. So that's really bad. You do not want your cells to start ripping open,
Right.
right? And when that happens, when the outlining of your cell gets too rigid, again it tears and you leak. Every single cell in your body starts to leak. So hard cells, hard membrane leaks. I saw there was a guy at the gym. You know him very well. It's a guy he's a photographer guy. I don't want to use his name on here, but you know him pretty
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And he went on statins, and within 6 months, tore both his biceps, tore his quad. And I'm like, and I told him, I was like, dude, just because he goes ham when he goes in the gym. And I was like, just be careful, man. Be careful. Because I was explaining to him, he's like, oh, yeah, no problem. I mean, you really, when I have clients that are on statins that refuse to get off, and then they don't want to listen because they believe their doctor's the second coming of Jesus. I don't put them through a tough workout. I refuse to. I can't. I don't put them through the high intensity because you're just more susceptible to just to tearing things, injuring yourself.
Dude, what?
Yeah. hmm So those were two things that happen on the inside of your cell. So the third and fourth mechanism of cholesterol, one, it produces uh, bile salts. So you have, I shouldn't say that, but you have bile salt is a product of the liver, and it's stored in the gallbladder. So once our food hits our small intestine, the bile is released, which helps break down foods to make it more bioavailable. So
So
bioavailability means like it basically takes the nutrients and gives it to your body.
bio, like bio, or bio, BILE.
BIO,
Okay,
bioavailability.
bio. Okay, got you.
Yeah. So it breaks down the nutrients and gives it to everything. So we need cholesterol to allow bile salts to make the food that we eat bioavailable. And that's a huge step in being nourished. And when we put a statin in our body, we start to diminish our nutritional capacity because it blocks the liver from making bile salts, which which converts into nutrients to give to the rest of our body. So you're actually depleting your body of nutrients because that's what statins do. Statins deplete your
Mhm.
body of nutrients because the bile salts cannot be made to make your food more bioavailable to the rest of your body. Yep.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, I had
hmm
no idea.
Yeah. And another main thing is your LDLs. It's like the building blocks for all your like cholesterols are building blocks for all your sex and steroid hormones. So if your cholesterol, like we said before, with the whole Lipitor to Viagra thing, right?
Yeah.
So when you take cholesterol lowering medication like such as statins, excuse me, you block vitamin D absorption, you block testosterone, you block estrogen, and it just jacks up all your steroid hormones. Like you're not in the mood to have sex, and that goes for women too. Like they don't get excited. They lose a little bit of lubrication. They don't want that. So it blocks libido in a lot of people too. So
Jesus.
going into my story a little bit, like my client wanted me to go with her for I forgot what it was. This is going back about 2 years ago, and she wanted me to go into the doctor to I was looking like a hormone test. She wanted to
Mhm.
get her hormones checked out because some things were wrong with her. So she went in there, and the doctor's like, "Oh, I got your blood test results back," and so let's go over them. And she's like, "Oh, we'll use her name Mary." She's like, "Oh, Mary's like, your LDLs are really high. It's like we need to put you on a statin drug." And right away, like I was like, okay, like
Yeah.
zoning in, like trying to be respectful, and not let my ego show too much. And I was like, oh yeah, it's like, how much are you gonna put her on? He's like, this and this and this, and I'm like, listen, doc, I was like, I don't know if you're, just want to point out some things. Like I understand that our LDLs are high, and maybe even though I knew it's the right fit, I was like, I understand why you want to put her on a statin, but just a heads up, like once you go on a statin, it's gonna make the cells really rigid. When that happens, it creates leakage in all 70 trillion of your cells. So all our cells are going to be leaking. Another thing I'm a little concerned about with Mary is when you put her on the statin, it's going to deplete the bile salts. So all the nutrients that she's eating, she's actually not going to be able to absorb. And also it blocks vitamin D absorption, it blocks testosterone, it blocks estrogen, all your sex and steroid hormones. So is it really worth to have that? Paul, you should have seen his face. He was just like a deer in a headlight. He was like his mouth was open. He's like, yeah, I forgot about that. But he was like super cool and open. He just and it was like a good relationship. And I refer to a lot of my clients to him now because he has that open mind. He's not a know-it-all. Like a lot of doctors would have gone pissed off and like
Yeah.
had an ego, but he was like, I totally forgot about that. You're right. He's like, let's try doing some things with your lifestyle first, control the inflammation markers, and then if you come back, we'll make a deal. If it doesn't go down, we'll put you on an LDL. I was like, take it, man. like, you
See,
know,
people, bring Brian to your doctor, son.
But like I tell people, like when I taught this to the trainers at when I taught this seminar to the trainers, I was like,
Yeah.
having like a little index card, keeping your wallet when you go to the doctor. When the doctor wants to put you on a statin, just ask him, hey, listen, it's going to lower my sex and steroid hormones. It's going to create leakage in every single one of my bodies because it's going to make my cells rigid. I'm not going to be able to absorb nutrients. Do you think it's still worth it? Is that worth it to you?
Right.
No. And reality is now you know that statins have no effect on lowering your cholesterol anyway. It has no effect. Stop smoking, which to me it's ridiculous. Like smoking on another level. It's like you want to smoke, you smoke, but like the FDA knows cardiovascular disease is the number one cause of death in the United States, maybe in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know, probably in the United States. And our government allows it to be out there. To me, it's money. It comes down to money, and it kind of pisses me off. But then glyphosate on top of it. We talked about this last time. The WHO, World Health Organization, they actually recognize glyphosate as a carcinogenic, and they still put it out there. So it's like all these government agencies, they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit about you. I might get in trouble saying that, but they don't give a shit.
Well, I think it's people get to know that though, because I mean, I can speak for myself. Like, there's a lot. In the earlier part of my life, I was under the assumption that the government. Well, actually, I don't know about that. As a black man, I don't know how much the government was really for us. But like I just for certain organizations anyway, like the World Health Organization, my thought was that like, well, they're here to help us stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
When in reality, like the more like when I was into pharmaceutical PR, I started recognizing where a lot of these messages were steering, where they were going, right? Like while there be some pharmaceutical companies that are doing powerful work, like with cancers and all these different other conditions that a lot of people may have yet to know about.
Mm-hmm.
Like the overall thing, like the over-the-counter drugs is where they're making a lot of money, and like these types of medications where they're pushing to get this out, and a lot of times they're failing to help out the person. So I think it's so important that we're giving people this information. Now, people, the key thing is like with this information, we're inviting you to please implement it, because I may be speaking out of pocket, but I think that there may be some fears of actually speaking that truth to the doctor for something I heard you say, where it's just like, they're a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
They're a doctor. Who am I to question? It's your body.
Yes.
It's your body, man. Yeah. Like, come on now.
Responsibility for yourself. I'm not saying you can do your research. This day and age, you have to do your research. You have to.
It's a must.
Yeah.
And listen, Brian, I want to acknowledge you too, because the way that you posed the question and the way that you asked it, that was an invitation for the doctor to really look at things from another perspective. Mm-hmm. Acknowledgement to the doctor too for wanting to actually hearing you and being like, oh, Junk, you know what? I forgot about that. And there's another thing that comes out of that, man, which I think is a takeaway, is that people, while your doctor's a doctor, they've done a lot of education, there's a lot of things that they've had to cram in that they may have forgotten.
Yeah.
So you get to be your biggest advocate in helping your doctor to take care of you. And that may mean that, you carry that freaking note card and be like, hey, doc, you want to put me on this?
Yeah. Part of me, I feel bad for them. First of all, they're overwhelmed. Second of all, like, they get into being a doctor because I think they generally want to help people.
They do.
The problem is they're like, we got us down here, the patients, you got the doctors here, and then you have all these government agencies on top just raining down all this shit information and like onto them. So I feel like they feel like they're getting a lot of pressure on them. Yeah, and I think a lot of the American public is getting fed up because they're not getting anywhere. They're not getting better. And that's the whole point of the pharmaceutical drugs, is not to get you better. It's just to mask a symptom. And again, listen, there's a time and place for everything. Episode 1, there's a time and place for everything. I would not, I'm not a doctor, but I would not go and start going on cholesterol lowering statins or medication or anything like that, you know. But there is a time,
Check your
like,
lifestyle. Yeah,
check
fuck,
your
yep.
lifestyle.
Check your
Like
lifestyle, man.
it's really, really simple. The key to health is it's very simple. Drink clean water, eat whole foods, eat organic as much as you can, get good sleep,
Yeah.
good positive thoughts, have a goal, have a dream. That'll keep you motivated. That's the main thing. Like when I work with somebody, like first thing, like I got this from Paul Check. I want to know what your dream is, man.
Right.
If you have a big enough dream, you don't have a crisis. You can't have a crisis if your dream's big enough because you don't think about that stuff. And when you have a dream, like he's like, I remember Paul being like, dude, I haven't been sick in 28 years, because I got shit to do, man. I can't have time to get sick. And he's like,
Yep.
when you had that way and like all that energy going through your body, like,
Whole different ball game,
yeah,
man.
it's a whole different
Whole
ball game,
different
man.
ball game, man.
Yeah,
Dang.
yeah. Figure out your
Dude,
why.
huh?
Figure out your why. What's your dream, man?
Bro. Man, this was such
Yeah,
a rich episode, man. Like all of them, man. I'm not, there's a couple things that stand out to me. And like, and so the statins, the thing that's alarming to me is about the statin and how they're really, it's like, for lack of a better term, they're drying out the cells. So it
yeah,
makes it easier for a person to get injured and to damage the body as they're taking the statin.
yeah.
Also, the one other thing that stuck out to me, um,
So again, when you have too rigid of a membrane, it causes tears, which will cause leakage um, throughout the rest of your body.
right,
All 70 trillion of your cells will start leaking.
yeah, damn, man, wow.
Yeah,
And the other thing that got me is that when it's about the inflammation,
mhm,
about when the LDL is high, it's really like a gauge for your body is saying like, hey, there's
yeah,
inflammation somewhere in your body. So
yeah.
those are the two things that really stuck out to me. Like, Brian, if I were to list out, or if you can, like, what would be the key things that you want people to really, really remember, or like maybe three options of key things that if someone were to take one away from today's session, they come out a better, they come out better for.
What do you mean, like on a lifestyle habit, a lifestyle change?
Yeah,
Like
like
if
just
somebody comes to me
everything we
with
went
like,
over. Well, everything we went over today, right? Like, cause I mean, there's some good rich stuff. And with that, if there were three things you want people to take away, because I had two. I had about the like the rigid like the rigid
mhm,
membrane, and also the inflammation if the LDL's high. But
yeah,
is there anything else that you want people to be aware of, especially if they're on these statins and things like
sure. Like, I mean, I'm beating a dead horse here, but I go back to changing your lifestyle.
that?
First of all, know that statins do not prevent heart disease. Okay, know that it does not prevent heart disease. There's more and more research of that coming out, and you can find that very easily. Two, if you're worried about heart disease, stay away from glyphosate. I can't. I sound like a robot. Stay away from glyphosate. If you want to know other conditions with glyphosate, look, and it was such a big topic. Paul and I had to do two topics on it, or two
Yeah,
episodes on it.
yeah.
Stay away from glyphosate. And the third thing, try to eat as much grass fed organic as you possibly can. Yeah, because
Tip top.
yeah, yeah, tip top. Hats off.
Yeah. Hey, so B man, thank you,
Yeah,
brother. Thank you, man.
of course.
Your knowledge is vast, man, and I dig. I I'm really appreciating the wisdom that this platform is providing for people to begin to take steps towards their own health and well-being, being their own advocate for their body, man. It's
Yeah,
extremely important. It means a lot to me. And I could tell whenever you're you bring the research, man, I could tell it means a lot to you too. So
it does. Yeah,
thank
and
you
I'm just
for
regurgitating stuff that I've learned throughout the years. You
yeah.
know, and like I said, we both have about 5 decades in this stuff. So hopefully, like We're not Instagram stars, you know.
Shit. Listen, you know what, man?
I'm not hating on them, but you know,
Yeah,
we have a
no,
little,
no,
we have a little
no
more.
hate. And
Yeah,
it's like, listen, I heard this thing. I'm trying to remember who said it, but like, it ain't about the numbers, even though we would like some more subscribers.
yeah,
But like, you have like millions and millions of followers. A lot of times, like a lot of those big time followers, they have to curtail their message, or they
mm,
have to stifle what they're saying, and like be like, listen, go back in the catalog. There's a lot of valuable stuff, and
mm,
Brian said it several times today. Go back and watch those 2 videos on glyphosate. Go back and watch them. And I put the disclaimer out there. Some of the stuff you may hear may piss you off. And
mm-hmm.
if it pisses you off, damn well good. That
Yeah,
means you're ripe for change, man. You're ripe to take care of yourself and be more aware of the stuff that's out there that's harming you that few people are talking about. So bless up to you, B.
I appreciate you too, man.
My man.
My
All right,
man.
everybody. Peace. You know the drill already.
Yeah.
Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe.
Uh-oh.
Once again, like, share, subscribe. Yeah, listen, we're going to go out with the clapping.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you. Thank you for coming out. Until next time.
All right. Appreciate you all. Peace.